back to Resistance Chicks. We're your hosts, Leah and Michelle, and the background is off. There we go. Oh, that's
yes,
way off.
Lord.
That is so bad. Oh my goodness. Wow.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna go bring up the Zero Hedge article on it.
Hang on before you get started. It's April 9th.
April, let's give the date and the time.
21, no,
the
not
country,
well, hang on,
the location.
No. We are running late though. We're late. Because we got all new phones.
Yeah.
And I'm struggling here with mine. But I will get it figured out for the conference.
What
the
conference?
Health and Freedom Conference that we are going to this coming week in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Actually,
General
Broken
Flynn,
Arrow. General
Sidney
Flynn, Sidney
Powell,
Powell.
Mike Adams.
Mike Lindell. Anybody is going to be there, and
Simone
we are
Gold.
so excited. I cannot even tell
Put
you.
on by Clay Clark.
The Thrive Time Show.
We're very excited. We're so excited. And for YouTube, there's like a lot we can't tell you about what we're excited about. That's crazy.
That's a fact.
You know, so I guess you have to like stay till the end of the show if you're watching on all the other platforms, and we'll talk more about that.
Did you give him a wink?
I did. Yeah, I did. Well, here's the thing. I didn't know that the mask deal was such a big deal with YouTube. I thought you just couldn't talk about that. Oh, there goes. That was the jab.
Yeah.
The jab. That was my. It was a barrette. Flying barrette. Brave barrette there. So I thought you just couldn't talk about the jab.
Right. No, apparently.
Or the stab, as we could call it.
You cannot say that you want your right to breathe.
Well,
that
no.
is unacceptable.
So DeSantis said, and I'm not saying this.
You're not saying it.
That kids don't need to wear masks. That's what he said. And he was having a round table, and I'm just reporting on this. I'm not weighing in on it.
Sure.
Am I? No.
Okay.
But his whole round table got taken down off of YouTube. This is some totalitarian craziness.
Yes.
Yeah. So, listen. We never know what's gonna irk them people at YouTube. They're just people, by the way. Yeah, there's algorithms, but no, it's just people. It's so funny. The algorithm. You know, people have to. They don't. The algorithm is not some sort of like it is an AI, but people program the algorithm to pick up on the things.
Yes.
Okay. You know, Marjorie Taylor Greene tweeted out, "He is risen," and that got flagged. Now, that would have been a computer error, probably, but I don't know. Okay, so we have been reporting on Hunter Biden and this laptop since the October surprise and the hard drive from Hades came out. It has, and listen, there are going to be some pictures. Don't have kids in this room watching this episode. I'm not going to, make them big for you, okay? But you can go, and you can see them now, because
they're bad.
There's video. I guess people have uploaded the videos that the hard drive's kind of gone around. I tried to tell you about the pictures, and people are like, well, Leah, why are you looking at the pictures? Okay. If the FBI and the law enforcement aren't going to do something about the fact that this guy is the son of a sitting president, then somebody has to. I don't want to look at somebody's pornographic pictures, okay?
Ever.
Thank goodness they've blurred some things out, and they picked out some of the least offensive pictures. I have seen blurred out faces, pictures of young women.
These ones that you're going to see here, and you don't have to, you can just listen, tonight are, to me, explicit and awful. But to the world, they're not that bad. There are other pictures that even to the world. And videos that even the world goes, whoa.
So one pornographic video he made, he got the stripper and he made her watch porn. It was a clergy porn in a Catholic church. Like, this is a really demented, sick guy. Why am I saying that? Because, number one, Joe Biden says he's the smartest guy he knows. Hunter Biden came out with a tell-all book, Okay. I need a little interview.
He didn't tell anything in his tell-all book.
Okay. In it, he says that he was such an intense drug addict that he was smoking and snorting Parmesan cheese, hoping it had crack in it, hoping it was crack. Now, there are some teachers going around, with joking about that. Cheese. But this guy is the smartest guy that Joe knows that can't tell crack from
Parmesan cheese.
Now, let me get into some of the, why is this important?
Parmesan cheese, really, hang on a second. Because I don't know anything about these drugs. I just seen movies.
It seems like you would not be able to.
There are other things in this world, like powdered sugar, that I would think would be closer to cocaine that you would accidentally. But Parmesan cheese?
No.
I mean, how trippy do you have to be to snort Parmesan cheese? I mean, first of all, it's got that smell. If you get it anywhere near your nose and you are halfway cognizant, you're going to know that is Parmesan cheese. Are we eating Italian tonight? I mean, seriously. Parmesan cheese, really. Powdered sugar. Parmesan cheese. So you kind of like, how much
you have to question. Well, he even said it was his. It was him. Okay, so here's the thing. According to what everybody else is saying, Joe Biden is president of the United States.
Right? Oh, jeez.
Oh, that's
holy
our alarms. I got to turn off.
I got to turn off my sounds.
Turn off the notifications.
Go silent.
Okay. According to the world. Okay, but here's the thing. This guy, Joe Biden.
Do not disturb.
He lies a lot. And he said Hunter wasn't doing crack when I was running for president.
He was clean as a whistle.
But there are emails on this laptop where Joe is, and actually it's not even just emails. Hunter Biden in his own book says that his dad and all these other people tried to stage an intervention during 2020.
That's a fast book. Because here's the deal. To get serious for a second, because I hate talking about an addict, recovering or otherwise, on this show, even if it is the supposed president's son, okay? Any addict, my heart goes out to, okay? And I don't want this to come out sounding harsh because one clean day is a good day. But when you're dealing with an addict, if he's writing a tell-all book as if he's miraculously recovered as of April 2021 and they were staging an intervention as of 2020, son, you got a long road to walk. You have no right to be writing any kind of book like you are recovered or anything otherwise because you are still battling this thing.
If he is free at all.
Okay? It doesn't work that way.
All right. With Hunter Biden on a serious image rehabilitation tour, a tell-all book combined with television interviews from friendly outlets designed to invoke pity over the first son's crack and hooker habits. Now, here's the thing. It's so funny. I feel like the hooker habits to me are very interesting for people to try to be like, he has an addiction. You know what I mean? Like, I get it, the heroin and the cocaine, but like, I just have a hooker habit. Like,
I have a hooker habit.
Yeah. Yeah. And to feel sorry for that, because here's the thing: once you've stepped that line, there are so many crimes being committed here. And this very week, Joe Biden's coming out with executive orders on gun control.
How about hooker control?
While his son lied, supposedly, on a federal form, according to his own words, because he supposedly had purchased a gun during the time that he admits to using drugs.
That's a no.
And if you don't get a gun if you say, yes, I use controlled substances, right? So you have to lie to get the gun. So he either obtained it illegally, but actually he didn't because he has the forms, and we've seen the forms of him obtaining the gun. Okay? And then there's the whole matter of his girlfriend at the time stealing the gun, throwing it in the trash can.
There is so much Jerry Springer going on here. I mean, I cannot even tell you.
And his girlfriend is his dead brother's wife.
They put a Jerry Springer family in the White House.
They did.
In America.
I know. They did. This is what we deserve. This is really what we deserve.
In America. Y'all been watching Jerry Springer all your life. What was that Jerry Springer Uncensored?
This is Jerry Springer Uncensored.
This is Jerry Springer Uncensored.
Yeah, well, Jill Biden on Easter wore fishnet stockings.
No, she did
with
not.
Black high heels.
What color were the fishnet?
Black.
On Easter?
Yeah.
Because white fishnet would have been okay.
No,
on Easter. That's a throwback.
Okay, so the Daily Mail is now telling the rest of the story regarding the contents of his abandoned laptop after Hunter admitted it certainly could be his in a Sunday interview with CBS. If you've seen the laptop photos, which leaked last October, which we told everybody about, and they think there was going to be a 17 to 20% swing of people who would not have voted for Biden had they known about this laptop.
Right.
Thanks to literally, remember when Twitter, Facebook, and everybody pulled down any posts from the New York Post and took down I think they even took down the New York Post Twitter for even posting this stuff. It was absolutely insane.
No, they did.
Okay. The Daily Mail did spare us from blurred pictures of Hunter's blankety blank.
Oh, no.
Along with several sex tapes released by exiled Chinese billionaire Guo Wenguo. Yeah. Yeah, the Chinese have all this stuff on him, by the way. After obtaining a copy of the hard drive, the Daily Mail commissioned top cyber forensic experts, Merriman and Associates, to analyze its data and determine whether the laptop's contents were real. Can you fake these pictures? Maybe. I don't know.
Pretty sure that in his tell-all interview that he did, he was like, the laptop could have been mine, but it was hacked by Russia. So pretty much any images of me doing anything questionable were manufactured by Russia.
Right.
On the laptop. I think you're good.
I think you're good. Okay. The firm's founder, Brad Merriman, a 29-year-old FBI veteran, supervisory special agent who served as an information security officer and founded its first computer forensic lab, says the Daily Mail. The Daily Mail obtained over 100,000 text messages, 154,000 emails, and over 2,000 photos, which were verified by top forensic experts, which reveal that Joe became a punching bag for Hunter's drug-fueled rants. Daddy, daddy, and paid his grandchildren's bills when Hunter had drained his bank accounts with prostitutes and crack cocaine.
On a minute.
Have you noticed the difference between his teeth? He actually took a picture of his teeth. Meth teeth. This is meth teeth.
Well, now here's the deal, though. Like, we've been involved with people that have had meth teeth, and then they get saved by Jesus Christ, and it's a really big deal to get your new teeth. And you're really excited about it, and praise God. But, like, the fact that, I mean, it's just... You know what I'm saying?
To get to teeth like this, he's a serious addict.
Now, before you scroll, hang on.
I'll go fast.
On this next one. Here, I got an idea. Scroll up a little bit like that. Now, go ahead. Keep going a little more. A little bit more. Whoa. All right. Now, he is pulling the hair of some girl in a questionable position. And it is not okay. It's very... Now, scroll fast.
You're not showing it.
No, we're scrolling fast. They couldn't scroll past. They couldn't see that was dark, too. There we go.
Right.
Y'all, if y'all wanted to see it, you can pause the video. You can go to this literally Zero Hedge and look at that's literally what you're seeing. I cropped the picture of him in his tidy whities posing with the scarf, right? And he is obviously doing a pose.
Yeah.
Here.
The Mail also promises to release more of Hunter laptop drops.
show you this.
Hunter's laptop is a Pandora's box of shocking revelations.
Here's him posing.
Explicit photos and intimate communications in the following
He's a
days.
supermodel.
Daily Mail will publish more shocking stories from Hunter's laptop, including how Hunter blew hundreds of thousands on prostitutes.
I know what I was going to say.
Drugs and luxury cars, leaving him scrambling to avoid jail for $320,000 in unpaid taxes. And in one of those emails, one of the text messages was like, Dad, I gotta pay the IRS.
Here, no, this is what I need to say. Wait a minute!
$320,000 in unpaid taxes.
I didn't mean to get snappy.
That's
But
in the taxes.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
This boy was getting so much money from China for
Ukraine.
both, for literally just being the son of the vice president. I didn't know that you got that kind of income. I didn't know that you could retire just by being the son of the former vice president. Okay. So he was he had to pay $320,000 in back taxes to the IRS.
And that's
so
the money.
Tell you how much money he was getting in.
That's
but
the money
here's
that
the
was
deal.
reported.
Here is the deal on all of this. Here's what I think. It's not, I don't know how much that would be, the taxes on that. Millions and millions of dollars, okay? It's not that Hunter Biden blew that money on prostitutes and cocaine. He gave it to daddy.
Yeah.
And that is where the money went.
10% for the big guy.
10% for the big guy.
And that was in that one particular deal. Remember, the other email said, I won't even make you give me 50% like Pop.
That's referencing the big guy. So what I'm saying is, yes, he blew all of his money on hookers and drugs, but not all of that money that he was getting for just being the son of the former or vice president. Okay, because that was he was still vice president at the time. You understand what I'm saying here?
Yeah. So 5 members of the Biden family have been to rehab for drug or alcohol abuse. And the other Biden family member, there was that planned to buy and cook crack after falling into disastrous addiction with Hunter. These are going to be more revelations from the Daily Mail. Hunter's unconventional and unlikely relationship with his well-known psychiatrist, the whispered bedroom conversation with a prostitute caught on Hunter's webcam in which he confesses he had a previous laptop stolen by Russians for blackmail.
Now, how does the webcam accidentally record stuff?
I don't know. So remember, the president's son left his 2017 MacBook Pro laptop at a Wilmington, Delaware computer repair shop in April 2019. He never returned for it. The signature matches. He's a signature match. In one text exchange between Joe and Hunter, Joe wrote, "Good morning, my beautiful son. I miss you and I love you, Dad," to which his petulant Hunter raged at his father for having made clear to the world that the only reason for not running for president is your family's problems. I'm glad to be the blanking bullseye you painted on my back. And in another text message was like, "You have to run because I have to redeem my name because you said you couldn't run because of me because I am a crack addict." Hunter. Yes.
At least it's honest. I mean, are we going to read this conversation?
We're going to read some of it. In another exchange, Hunter complained that Joe's advice not to defend himself publicly during his expensive divorce with his ex-wife Kathleen Biden or his affair with his brother's widow Haley had backfired. "Your team just made me the uncontrollable, troubled tax cheat philanderer, sex and drug addict that you tried so hard to fix, but you couldn't.
Well,
they just totally wrote my life away," Hunter wrote, adding, "If you don't run for president, I'll never have a chance at redemption."
Okay. You know what, though? It's really interesting to hear this because we were under the impression that Joe Biden was chosen by those that do the choosing. And I think that that's true. I think that Hunter thought that his dad was making the choice. So Hunter thinks, "Dad, you got to run. You got to make this decision." I don't think that Joe had a choice in the matter.
Joe replied with a promise to run, although hinted that maybe Hunter should probably stop getting so dramatic over text due to them being a target. "I'll run, but I need you. Haley is wrong. Only focus is recovery, nothing else. When you can and feel like it, call. Positive, my text, etc. at a target." A target. Oh, positive, my text is a target. People are watching me. Joe Biden would announce his run for president 2 months later, during which Hunter's laptop contents would leak, defeating the purpose of rehabilitating the crack addict's image. Joe would again warn Hunter not to spill his life's story over text, writing, "Be careful what you text. Likely I'm being hacked." So, if you have the Zero Hedge article, you can scroll down and you can play this clip here from Tucker where he talks about Hunter Biden purchased a handgun illegally.
Right.
Illegally.
I just hit it.
Illegally. Can you just go back? Can you just go backspace? Yeah, I think you just closed out the article.
No, I just pulled up the, that was weird. It pulled it up in its own, is this it?
Mm-hmm.
We'll just play the Twitter one, I guess. Right?
Tweet, yes.
It's only a minute though long.
Yes.
This one's only a minute long.
Yes.
Okay.
This is the man Joe Biden just nominated to lead ATF. But it gets worse than that. In a Reddit post, David Chipman suggested that people who fail background checks should be arrested on the spot. Quote, while at ATF, I conducted studies involving people who failed background checks to determine how many later committed crimes with a gun. Many did. This is a perfect opportunity to arrest people before committing crimes rather than responding after the fact. Arrest people before they commit crimes. That is a brand new concept in American law, though the Chinese are highly familiar with it. But the suggestion does raise a point of pressing interest to the Biden family. Joe Biden just appointed a guy who thinks people who lie on federal firearms background checks should go to prison. Oh, well, do you know any? Hunter Biden purchased a handgun illegally. He lied on a federal background check. That's not speculation. He did. We've seen the form. So the question is, will David Chipman arrest the president's son? And if he doesn't arrest the president's son, the question is, how exactly are you obligated to follow these rules? That's a serious question. Can you live in a country where the rules don't apply to the president's son, but you could go to jail for violating them? How can you participate in a system like that? Again, sincere question. They should explain.
Yes, they should, Tucker.
Yes, they should.
No, I had wanted to read that exchange. That's why I had it up, and then it went away.
Yeah.
So there's the whitey tighties again.
Yeah. So there's a lot more to this. And I think we've covered a lot of it.
Oh, there it is. No, that's a different one. I gotta tell you, this whole thing is just so, like I said, we literally put Jerry Springer family in the office. In the White House.
President's continued.
No. Just turn on the do not disturb button for just for the show.
But that's the problem, that I'll lose my.
You're not going to lose it. It's in the basement now.
I always lose my phone. Okay. And so I have to always keep a ringtone on.
Right, but right now we're in the basement and we're turning on do not disturb.
No.
For right now.
I'll lose my phone.
We are. It's not.
And I
going,
won't forget to turn it off.
lost.
Joe criticized George Bush Sr.'s 1980s war on drugs for being not tough enough and wrote punitive laws with harsher sentences for drug crimes when he was head of the Senate Judiciary Committee in the late 1980s and 1990s.
The late 1890s.
Yeah, that's about as old as he is. His son's drug-fueled calamities have resulted in multiple run-ins with law enforcement that would usually result in criminal charges or investigation, but Hunter has so far avoided the police. His laptop was handed over to the FBI in 2019, is brimming with evidence of apparent criminal activity by Hunter and his associates, including drug trafficking and prostitution. That's illegal. Prostitution is illegal, by the way.
It is.
And who's Iron Man? What's his name?
Robert Downey Jr.
He went to jail for picking up a prostitute once.
Right.
And doing some crack, I think.
You would think, hang on though, you would think that a lot of these Hollywood stars would be like, hang on a minute. Even though it's on your team, you still, fighting for the wrong thing.
Fighting for the wrong thing. Hunter appeared to be obsessed with making and starring in porn films with prostitutes.
He had his own porn
Videos and
account,
photos
man.
on his laptop show the hard drive contains hundreds of pictures of naked women and naked selfies of Hunter, as well as dozens of videos.
Wait a minute. Hundreds of pictures of naked selfies. Okay, this is the time of the show where I gotta tell y'all something. I don't like to look at my naked body. I would never take a picture of my naked body. I wouldn't send it to somebody. I wouldn't look at it. I know my mom is like, I don't even look. Get in the shower, get out of the shower. It don't even exist. Okay, most of us do not stand like Hunter did with that little picture that I showed y'all a minute ago. With our neck. Nobody does that. No one.
Unless you're a Kardashian.
No real sane person does that. Naked selfies. What are you? 13?
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
I know.
Go on ahead.
Hunter photographed and filmed himself, often with 2 prostitutes at a time. Why am I telling you this? My dear friend probably is not watching anymore and probably will never call me again, but maybe she will. I love her. But she told me that Trump's immorality was so much for her that she was on Team Biden, who helped and knew that his son had a hooker addiction. And I want to make it crystal meth clear.
Oh, dear.
That the Biden family is Jerry Springer on steroids and makes Trump look like...
Gabriel the angel.
Exactly. Perfection. Moral perfection. If we're grading on a curve, Trump's family gets A++++.
Right.
Biden family, F minus, 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 minus. Okay, so that's what I try to tell people. If this had really come out, and listen, I know that I'm kind of probably playing in the mainstream media. I know they're going to try to take and switch Biden for Harris. I know that's been the plan the whole long. Jill is in on. I'm pretty sure. I know Jill is in on it because she knows that he's not cognitive. She knows that his cognitive ability has severely deteriorated. To where true international under pressure, you know, and go, you know the thing.
Go, you know the thing.
You know, it's you know how many.
Remember that song we wrote?
Go, you know the thing. Go, you know the thing. He was trying to quote the Declaration of Independence, and he couldn't say one nation under God, whatever. So, I want to make it explicitly clear that the morality of the Biden family is so despicably low. And that's why I know, I don't want to hear all this. You can skip it. You already know if you're red pill.
The journal of Joe Biden's daughter about her questioning showers with her dad and thinking maybe something had happened there and that was probably inappropriate. And she has gone through how children don't get that way. Mm-hmm. They don't end up on drugs unless their childhood had
messed up
some problems.
Yeah.
Okay. And so if Joe is showering with his daughter at an age that she remembers and thinks to herself, that was probably not okay. Plus, we have video footage and photo footage of Joe sniffing and fondling all kinds of little girls to the point where they are so uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Just saying.
It didn't happen once, twice. It happens all the time. That's all he does. He just gets in people's faces. It's so disgusting.
But people that have chosen a side in their minds, they literally stop their ears. We don't. Trump had an affair. We don't stop our ears to that. Okay? Trump was not a moral superior guy. Just gonna say it. He's repented from that. Okay? I've never heard Joe come out and said, you know what? Touching and hanging and handling and fondling those women and those girls and it made them uncomfortable. I probably should not have done that.
No, he just says he was too kind.
He was too kind.
Yeah.
In the touchy-feely.
So, listen, this is for your Biden voting family and friends. Okay? Because if the mainstream media had played this ad nauseum to the point... the whole family would be in jail. They would be worse than the Clintons. Okay? He filmed
himself. The fact that it was hidden should tell you something.
Yeah, Hunter filmed himself with women from his laptop webcam, sometimes shooting at different angles using an iPad and a cell phone. The sex tapes and shots with hookers are mixed in with family photos, business documents, and selfies from his then lover and brother's widow, Haley. The left and the right who voted for Biden excusing that is just so disgusting.
Well, and his brother, I don't want to say, here's the deal. If your son... when he passed, if he chose a woman who, when he passed away, she was sleeping with him before then, or was it right after? But either way, that whole thing right there, that dynamic kind of lends, his name was Bo, right? Mm-hmm. Lends it a little credence to who Bo was. And I don't want to throw a dead person under the bus, but I'm just saying, we got to take this holistically. I wouldn't take that by itself, but when you meld it with everything else, you got to look at it. It's not just circumstantial evidence.
Text showed he would often order drugs to hotel rooms and take them with the women before and after blankety blank, and 100 milligram Viagra pills, the highest dose prescribed by doctors. His Pornhub account had 66 award badges, including a badge for reaching 50 subscribers, watching 500 videos, and watching porn in high definition. I love that you get badges. Pornhub it rewards you for watching more videos. And watching them in high def.
Now, children, this is why you need Viagra. Because your libido, when you're looking at this stuff,
goes to pot. Hunter would sometimes leave on the webcam after blankety blank and capture himself looking at his computer. I'm not going to read anymore. You guys get the point, okay? It's just...
Here's the deal.
Drugs.
What we're here to bring you today... Now, we haven't actually gone into depth about what was on the laptop. This is as deep as we're going with this. We're here to bring you today that is his. I don't think anybody really questioned that it was his, but the left was trying to say that it was hacked by Russia and that stuff wasn't true. It is all true, and then some. Here's
just a text message of him texting to transport women. And then another one, $100 to $200 for the night, as well as appearing to offer him drugs, saying, my guy is giving me something of whatever drugs. He's going on vacation. I just got to give him $200. And I got some work. If you need anything, hun, it's fire. It's just crazy stuff. Like, dude is doing drug deals. Here's all the evidence that you need
to convict
on
someone.
a million times. It's not just a one-off thing. It's not a two-off things. Thousands and thousands of
Even
texts.
if all of his dealings with Ukraine and China were on the up and up, this alone does it. But when you compile it all, and it all goes back to the big guy, Joe.
And actually, one time he left the room during the hotel room during a toast with drugs and prostitutes to go to the ATM. And he gets a text message from one of the prostitutes saying, blankety blank, you called the cops, so that he just missed a run-in with the cops by this. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So, okay, I'm going to move on to some comments about this from some other people.
Blue check marky people.
Let me see here.
Good ones. Glenn
Greenwald has some. Let me see. Where am I? Where are you, Glenn?
He was the first thing that came up on all the tabs that I had up.
Those are all my Siobhans. Siobhan, we're going to cover the Derek Chauvin trial here and just like coming up next, but I wanted to let's
Here,
play. I don't know
got
if you
one
can,
right here.
Okay, go ahead, read it.
Anyone interviewing Hunter Biden who doesn't ask these questions is committing journalistic malpractice.
Mm-hmm.
1, were any of the reported emails attributed to you forged?
Mm-hmm.
2, did you pursue the business deals in China reflected in those emails? 3, did the big guy's 10% refer to Joe?
Yeah.
I want to know the answers to those questions.
Yeah, and then go ahead and play the video here. It's going to be on the next one. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the left with Ron Johnson. One more over, I guess, talking about the setting up of shell corporations. It's really hard to find out what he's doing with his foreign income.
All right, there's the Glenn Greenwald tweet. All right, Ron Johnson, love this guy.
Complex web of foreign entanglements, particularly within China, but really all over the world. So you simply can't trace it. I mean, when you're trying to hide income, the way you do it is you set up corporation after corporation after corporation. You layer these things. For example, one of the corporations they use was called Hudson West. I think there are like 8 or 9 different Hudson West corporations. You don't know who owns them. You don't know where the money is flowing back and forth. And that's how you launder money, by the way, too, is you have all kinds of different transactions, which makes it very difficult for anybody to catch and really, uncover what's all going on. He may not have, by definition, broken any laws.
Oh, he's not
but I
over
would just
yet.
ask people, just a conflict of interest in Burisma, where he made something like about $4 million. Why? I think it's obvious why. It just looks sleazy. It may not be by the book illegal, but it's sleazy. And then all these foreign entanglements, we don't know what China knows about their financial dealings. We don't know what they could use as potential blackmail. And remember, that the media and the Democrats claimed potential blackmail when they were pushing the Russia hoax against Trump. Here we've got very verified financial entanglements and transactions that could lead to serious counterintelligence, extortion, and blackmail threats.
And that's just it. That is the deal. We've been saying that on this show since October. Okay? If Joe Biden gets in office, this is why you can't elect somebody whose family is compromised because they can use extortion.
No.
And all of the people, like the friend that we were referring to a little bit ago, that want to put their heads in the sand and say, I don't care. I hate Trump.
I know.
I don't care if foreign countries can have extortion against us. I literally don't care. My hate for this man that is Trump derangement syndrome and irrational and insane is far more important than the actual safety of our country.
Crackhead Hunter Biden, as Candace Owens, uploaded the videos of himself engaged in these acts onto porn websites to share with the world. Now the left is trying to pretend he is somehow a victim of revenge porn.
Do y'all know what revenge porn is? I mean, come on. The very definition, that is not, if you create your own porn and upload it to Pornhub, no one can ever use it as revenge porn.
Everyone knows now that the Hunter Biden documents, including those raising questions about Joe's participation in his China deals, are authentic. But admitting that is a scandal, given what they and Facebook did. So now they've trained liberals to think any mention of it is trivial. Yeah. It's
just trivial. It ain't nothing but chicken wing.
No, just pretty. I love this. This is where Dave Rubin places this out, or put this out. We know they are lying.
They know they are lying.
They know that we know they are lying. And we know they know that we know they are lying, and they still continue to lie. That's how it works.
Exactly.
We know that they know that we know that they're lying, and they still lie.
Usually in every movie, once you get to the point where they know that you know, then the relationship ends, and they're like, okay, I can't cover it up anymore.
A little good news. Georgia this week pulled back all the COVID mandates.
Woo!
Tennessee passed
Ohio.
It became the 20th
Ohio.
state to abolish concealed carry permit requirements on the same day that Joe Biden, Mr. Biden, was pushing more gun control at the federal level. Governor Bill Lee was signing legislation to do away with Tennessee's concealed carry permit requirement. Lee tweeted a photo of himself signing the legislation to do away with the permit requirement. The tweet included a shout out to the NRA. I signed constitutional carry today because it shouldn't be hard for law-abiding Tennesseans to exercise their Second Amendment rights. And it takes effect July 1st. The Tennessean reports it allows people 21 and older to carry handguns openly or concealed without a permit, along with members of the military 18 to 20. Tennessee will now become the 20th state to end its requirement for law-abiding citizens to get a permit from the government before exercising their right to bear arms. Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, Idaho, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Maine, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, New Hampshire, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Utah, Vermont, West Virginia, and Wyoming.
Here's the good news about Abbott being the one to do this.
This wasn't Abbott. This was Tennessean governor.
Oh, I know why I keep thinking it was Texas.
Bill
That's
Lee.
crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, we don't know Bill Lee. Aren't you going to talk about Abbott later, or did you already?
I will talk about Abbott later.
I knew she was talking about Abbott. Okay, well, Texas already does that, right, though? What I was going to say was, and I think it still applies, having Greg Abbott on board with that, with Texas, right?
Yeah.
Hang on, I'm gonna say something.
Okay.
Is good, because if they ever try to do a federalized permit, Abbott and Texas are going to fight that to the point of succession.
Yeah, so not even that. My favorite, I can call him a politician, he's Attorney General, Ken Paxton is on fire. He's the one who brought the suit from all this, and all the states joined. Biden announced a bunch of anti-Second Amendment measures today. He and Dems are set to regulate and ban things they're clueless about, impose national red flag laws, and tell the DOJ to lead left-wing gun grabs. Not in Texas. I've got a lawsuit hair trigger, and I will sue Biden if he threatens Texans' Second Amendment rights. And then all the attorney generals of all those states will join in. So we do have, with the Biden administration, this opportunity of the balance of government to maybe possibly show us how it works, how it should work.
We've needed this for a long time, because what has happened is the states have become too fluid with the federal government.
Absolutely.
Okay? And our states are supposed to have sovereignty. All right? We join together as united states, not as a bunch of land in Northern America where we have a dictatorship federal government that control everybody. That is not how this works. We are a constitutional republic.
And I also have a good narrative to share with you right now. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas came out with an
Clarence.
An op-ed, a statement, I don't know what you want to call it, this week on regulating big tech. And he makes a very important distinction here on like the use of the telephone. And I'm going to read it to you, but I want to show you just to kind of give you the who, what, where, when, and why, and how. So this week we're seeing a lot in the big tech world and in the news media. There's one narrative, and it's not just enough for them to band together in all the major networks. It's not just enough for them to just continue to have one narrative and to own everything. They have to silence even the little people, even us. They can't allow us to even bring up a question, even to question wearing a mask.
Right.
We're not even allowed to question it.
Right.
We're not even allowed to question the jab. We're not even allowed to talk about what could be a side
And
effect
I remember
of
watching
a vaccine that just came out this year and it supposedly was formed in less than a year. We're not allowed to question that. Like,
I remember watching 1984, which was an incredibly disturbing movie. I did not read the book. I don't need to. And I remember thinking to myself,
China Joe.
I understand that this is their plan, but I can't really imagine us ever getting to the place where we have thought police and we are told what we can and cannot say.
Yeah.
There are words that are banned. We are there. We are
But
living it.
I want to give you good news because the word on the street with the people is that, like, I talk to a person.
We're not gonna take
I talk to a person. I talk to people all the time.
Gonna take
Okay? All the time. Who are like, maybe they're not conservative, maybe they're not on the right or anything, but they're like, I know they're fake news. Like, I know the mainstream media is lying, and we know they know. Like, it's just even normal people who aren't even, they don't even research this stuff. Okay, so over here on the side, it says it, and it
Behind
just
your
went
head.
away. Yeah, it just went away. On my Twitter, it just went away. But it said attorneys in the prosecutors in the Derek Chauvin case testified that the police caused his death.
Attorneys testify?
Well, the medical examiners, I'm sorry, the medical examiners testified that the police caused his death.
Okay.
But they're not putting up there the testimony from the experts
Are we moving
from the
to
very
Derek Chauvin right now?
We're just, could you hang on? Hang on. I'm going to show you something. It's called a bridge. I'm building it in real time.
Okay.
So right there on the side, they're telling me what is happening. And they're putting a narrative forward that we must consume.
I pick it up what you
but
put down.
when those same medical examiners were cross-examined, they were asked, if you didn't know all the circumstances and you found George Floyd alone in his room with 3 times the lethal amount of fentanyl in his system, would you have ruled it an overdose? And I'm going to show you a video. Those same medical examiners said yes. But that's not in the Twitter thing. So my point is this. This is why we are so dangerous. All right? Just today. Hang on. Big day for our tech overlords. Okay? YouTube purges Ron DeSantis video over claims children do not need to wear masks. I'm not claiming that, YouTube. Here on YouTube. So it removed a discussion between Florida governor and medical experts for contradicting the consensus of local and global health authorities. It was a recent roundtable discussion DeSantis moderated at the global response to the pandemic. DeSantis was joined by Oxford epidemiologist Dr. Suntra Gupta, Harvard professor Dr. Martin Kulldorff, and Dr. Scott Atlas and Dr. I can't say it, from Stanford University. The clip was posted by the American Institute for Economic Research, and a transcript of the discussion, you can read it on the group's website. YouTube rep confirmed to the Wrap on Thursday the video was removed due to multiple instances where the doctor said children do not need to wear masks. These are doctors from Oxford, Stanford, and Harvard.
But
yet
YouTube knows better than those doctors.
Oxford, Harvard, and Stanford. They're not even local. It's not even just somebody's opinion. And they're not even allowed to weigh in on this because they aren't
Here's the deal. A sound-minded thinking person, you have to be able to step back and go, what are you hiding? why do you have to work so hard to censor this information? It's not about protecting people from this virus. It's not about that. There's something larger, because they're acting like they're censoring, or they're protecting people from something that will like just randomly kill you for just sitting there.
So Jason Whitlock, he's a black guy, and he's actually a sports reporter, but he weighs in on things. He's been weighing in on like Black Lives Matter. So he posts an article where Black Lives Matter co-founder Patrisse Cullors buys a $1.4 million home in Los Angeles. In a secluded mini compound tucked in LA's rustic and semi-remote Topanga Canyon, it's sold for $1.4 million to Patrisse Cullors, 37-year-old.
That kind of money before Black Lives Matter took off? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, so she created the Black Lives Matter hashtag, but she rails against capitalism and the white folk. Okay, so
but it's on a little postage stamp. It's a quarter of an acre.
It's very small. Well, it's California, so what do you expect? But
2,400 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, plus one bed and 1 bath guest house.
But Jason Whitlock's account was closed. Black Lives Matter founder buys $1.4 million home in Topanga, which has a black population of 1.4%. She's with her people. And people. Jason Whitlock posted that, and his Twitter account, no, I don't need to do that now, was suspended over that tweet. Because he said well, how does Twitter know? Racist. How does Twitter know that she's not with her people?
Exactly. She's with her people.
And then we talked about this today. Spotify deleted 42 controversial Joe Rogan episodes. There's a lot of censorship going on today. Speaking of censorship, so Twitter bans the sitting president. Facebook punishes anyone questioning Fauci or the CDC guidance. Amazon removes conservative books. YouTube pulls DeSantis roundtable. Are you seeing a pattern yet? And this here, though, what should be done to curb big tech? And this Newsweek article is actually written by Josh Hammer, who, no. A realignment, as many has observed, is now unfolding in American politics. The Republican Party and its conservatism is now home for the somewheres, to borrow the term from David Goodhart's 2017 book, The Road to Somewhere, which refers to the more traditionalist, hard Scrabble patriots of the American heartland. The Democrat Party and its increasingly hard left progressivism, by contrast, is a home for the anywheres, those highly educated, mobile, woke elites comprising the bi-coastal ruling class. The big tech issue is the tip of the spear of the realignment, as has been made painfully obvious over the past few years, with last October's collusion, big tech assault with the New York Times Post for its election season reporting on Hunter Biden's overseas travels, serving as an eye-opening pinnacle. Big tech is now the ruling class's cat's paw. These modern-day robber barons are willing and able to lend their censorious assistance to the ruling class's ruthless entrenchment of its ideological and political hegemony. Big tech is
hegemony.
I like that. That's a good way to say it.
No, that's the way you say it.
I've heard people say hegemony.
Hegemony. How does Vody Bacham say it?
Hegemony. Big tech, in short, is the leading private sector appendage with which the anywheres cow into submission, subjugate to the somewheres. This emergent reality has caused no shortage of heart palpitations among some of the more liberal elements of the American conservative firmament. Conservatives, many were taught, stand for unadulterated laissez-faire and a staunch commitment to deregulating corporate America. What to do then when those unshackled big corporations turn around and come after us? The answer for many has been to carefully reassess what exactly it is we stand for as conservatives, especially as it pertains to unaccountable, concentrated corporate titans who control the 21st century equivalents of the old public square. To wit, there is nothing particularly conservative about a zealous, dogmatic refusal to countenance state actions that might better channel the content creation and moderation decisions of a behemoth such as Amazon, which has at least an 80% market share in digital books. That was enough. This is a huge thing, because when you remove somebody's digital book from Amazon, you pretty much remove their book,
Exactly.
right? Toward the common good of the Americans. Ditto Google, which has a nearly 90% market share. We were talking about it today. DuckDuckGo, you get whole new search results. I download it. I use it exclusively on my phone. DuckDuckGo, exclusively. It's really good on the phone. Not as good. I actually use Dissenter on
The PC.
PC. But the historical bromance between the GOP and the Chamber of Commerce-style corporatism has been an obstinate hindrance to reform. Big tech skeptical, pro-realignment conservatives have all too often had their legal and policy arguments on such issues as antitrust enforcement and Section 230 reform thrown back in their faces by doctrinate limited government enthusiasts who insist that true conservatism is synonymous with hands-off private sector fundamentalism. Build your own Google, they say. On Monday, the most important conservative in the nation, Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. He's black, by the way, in case you didn't know. The most important conservative is black. Is the most important liberal black?
That's a good question.
No, I can answer that as in
Here he is.
no.
Isn't that a tough picture?
No.
I love
Does-
that picture.
Yeah. Did the liberals put a black man on the Supreme Court? I don't think they did, honey. All right.
Okay, no.
In his concurrence in Biden versus Knight First Amendment Institute, Thomas opined, today's digital platforms provide avenues for historically unprecedented amounts of speech, including speech by government actors. Also unprecedented, however, is the concentrated control of so much speech in the hands of a few private parties. And we know this because our main YouTube channel is gone. Later, after the discussion of the centuries-long history of common carrier regulation, okay, the telephone lines and internet,
Right.
okay, the stuff that going over the internet, honey child, in modern times, most often apply. And why can't people regulate what goes over the internet? Child pornography, right? It's illegal. This is, with these different companies, you should be able to say, okay, if it's illegal,
Right.
you can take it off. Most often applied to transportation networks like rail and communication networks like telephone and places of public accommodation. Thomas wrote, there is a fair argument that some digital platforms are sufficiently akin to common carriers or places of accommodation to be regulated in this manner. Does everybody congregate in different, social place and in public places? No. But you can't say a conservative can't go to this public place, okay? Right. You can't say you can't come in here because you're a liberal or blah, blah, blah.
Well, and once again, to reiterate it, we haven't said it in a while, when these people become publishers, which is what they have chosen to do, they do not get the protection of the article, or whatever it's called, Section 230. Mm-hmm. What that does is it says, well, you can't be responsible for something that Joe Schmo posts because
you just let anybody
You're just
on.
letting anybody on. Of course that doesn't reflect you, but as soon as you start to dictate what people can and cannot say, well, now you are responsible. So if Joe Schmo posts something and the buck isn't falling with Joe Schmo.
Right.
It's falling with you, Facebook. It's falling with you, YouTube. Mm-hmm. So they're the ones. I don't think we need to get rid of Section 230. I think we need to pull
the 230
from these people who have chosen to become publishers
and common carriers. There is a fair argument that some seemingly speaking directly to regulators and legislators at both the federal and state level. Thomas also added, if the analogy between common carriers and digital platforms is correct, then an answer may arise for dissatisfied platform users who would appreciate not being blocked. Laws that restrict the platform's right to exclude. Seldom is a Supreme Court justice clearer and more forthright than that. Finally, in a footnote toward the end of his concurrence, Thomas implied that Section 230 immunity may itself be constitutionally problematic and violates the First Amendment. So this statement from America's greatest living conservative, who happens to be one of the greatest Supreme Court justices ever, the path forward for the big tech skeptical right is clear. We can and we must use all tools necessary in our public and legal arsenal to rein in the big tech oligarchs before it is too late Section 230 reform and antitrust enforcement against the most egregious offenders and concentrated power, such as Google and Amazon, are fine places to begin. But as Thomas argues, and as many of us have argued, at least since the New York Times post, and we have for a long time, we should think even bigger than that. It's time to get serious about applying common carrier regulatory frameworks and or public accommodation Civil Rights Act statutory frameworks, and to reclaim our self-governing democracy from the Silicon Valley technocracy before it's too late. And that is from Josh Hammer, a Newsweek editorial. And from the conservative treehouse, COVID compliance is infrastructure. Google deletes Florida Governor Ron DeSantis roundtable. Yeah, from YouTube. Yeah, COVID compliance.
Is there anything we're not going to talk about on YouTube? Because we seem to be pretty open today.
There is actually, but I don't. Honestly, we haven't said anything about that. We talked about what was taken off, but we didn't say.
About Ron DeSantis. Yeah. But
Here's what I want to get to. What should be done to curb big tech? A few billionaires currently have the power to decide what some American speech rights are more sacred. That some American speech rights are more sacred than others. Clarence Thomas offers the remedy, and this is another article from gosh, I don't even know. Common Sense with Barry Weiss. BARWEISS.
BARI.
Didn't I say that?
You said BAR.
BARI.
Agree.
Yeah. So you've got I think I can end it with that. This is just another good article.
412 says, poor Clarence. He probably wanted to retire. Now he has to wait years. Gonzalo says, Biden says he is not black. Yeah, exactly. Biden's like, you ain't black. Jason Whitlock used to write for Kansas City Star newspaper sports section. He is a black guy. That was on the Patrice Cullors buying that big house. He wrote that one. Let's see. DuckDuckGo doesn't spy on you, says Chris87 on DLive. You're right about that. James says, Michelle, these people are just insane.
David Sachs, a venture capitalist with a consistently insightful Twitter account, thinks it would be a good thing to start regulating. He says, when speech got digitized, the town square got privatized, and the First Amendment got euthanized. If you can't speak online, or if your ability to speak online is controlled by a tiny handful of companies with no due process, how do you really have a free speech right in this country anymore? Imposing a common carrier obligation on big tech would prevent these corporations from doing what they are doing now, discriminating on the basis of creed.
Yep.
You know what? You want to eat at a restaurant? Start your own restaurant.
Exactly. That's really good. Gonzalez wants to know how old Clarence is. He's actually only 72. So he's got a little while left he can go before. I mean, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I don't know how old she was, but she didn't.
So remember,
make it.
Trump got banned, and people said, so what? It's Twitter. Twitter's a private company. Jack Dorsey can boot who he wants. Anyways, Trump can go to Parler. But then Parler got kicked out of the Apple and Google app stores. So the argument became, well, you can still create a website. And then ASW stopped hosting Parler. As Sachs put it, you shouldn't have to build a new internet to post a tweet.
That's so true.
When Dr. Seuss's estate discontinued 6 of his titles over apparent racism, that's one thing. When eBay decided they would not allow the reselling of those titles, that's something else. When 60 Minutes decides to selectively edit an interview, and that was kind of crazy, with Governor Ron DeSantis, that's one thing. But when YouTube decides to delete a video of that governor criticizing COVID-19 policies with physicians and scientists, that's something else. Big tech companies insist that they are removing disinformation and hate speech from their platforms. But as we've seen, these are terms with ever-evolving definitions. Tom Cotton's June op-ed in the New York Times, for example, was literal violence, according to more than 800 New York Times staffers. Never mind that Cotton's argument was one at least 60% of Americans agreed with. In the past few months, for example, Amazon updated its content guidelines by adding the following line: we don't sell certain content, including content that we determine is hate speech. In October, the company barred Eli and Shelby's Steele documentary, What Killed Michael Brown. After public outcry, the company reversed the decision. Ryan Anderson, a conservative author and president of the Ethics and Public Policy Center, has his book about transgender issues banned from the online marketplace since March. Check out that film and that book. Such politically motivated silencing has profound political consequences. Think, for example, about the Hunter Biden laptop story. In the month before the 2020 presidential election, Twitter locked the New York Post account, which broke the story, out of its own Twitter account for weeks and refused to let the paper back onto the platform until it deleted. That was when I was still on Twitter, like, as me. But now I'm on Michelle's account and I'm like hiding and trying not to say anything because I like to tweet things out so I can keep them in my timeline. So you can follow me at on MassFaith3 or Michelle Svensson, but it's really me. Okay. Facebook suppressed the story on users' news feeds. The story was variously it was like a debunked account. Like you didn't even use it. And you hadn't done anything. It was a defunct account. It was so great because like there was nothing there for Twitter to get upset about.
At the time.
Wow. Facebook suppressed the story on users' news feeds. The story was variously a conspiracy theory disinformation. Remember, NPR says, we don't even bother with fake news. We don't even talk about it. It was a Russian plot or irresponsible because the documents were unverified. Was the same standard applied to the Steele dossier? Fast forward to this week, the laptop story has now been mostly backed up. Jack Dorsey now says he would have handled the Post story. The way he handled the Post story was a total mistake. But should he have the power to censor a story of political consequence, one that could shift the outcome of an election? More to the point. When every single major tech company is making the exact same decision over who to deplatform and what to ban, doesn't that seem like the behavior of a cartel? Mm-hmm. Okay, they had to break up Standard Oil.
Okay.
Do you remember this?
Good news segment. Wait, before you finish your article, I want to put this in here because I need for you guys, as Leah continues to read,
Well, it's done.
to understand why this is good news.
Yeah.
Okay? Because when the ship is sinking and they are scrambling to do anything that they normally wouldn't otherwise do, if their ship wasn't sinking, they would not have sunk this low to try to cover up all this stuff. Their ship has so many holes in it, okay? They are grabbing like, I don't even know, like, a Gucci bag to stuff in it, like something you just would never do. A child was stuffing the child in the hole. Okay, like, you can understand what I'm trying to say. They're going to such extreme measures because they are terrified. It's like, I know we can't talk about cannibalism because that got our other channel banned. You know what I'm saying? Okay, but if you're in a situation, okay, where you wouldn't normally eat a human, but you're starving, and then you eat the human, this is what they're doing. They're so desperate they are eating themselves.
Well, Bill Gates and George Soros are teaming up, according to Emma Robinson, to fight disinformation. They're going to employ Katie Couric and Prince Harry to do it. She says, I'm kidding you not.
Oh my gosh.
Sounds like a team.
Yeah, because everybody wants to listen to Prince Harry right now.
Yeah.
Speaking of which,
Prince Philip has died, and we will cover more. We'll probably cover that on Sunday on our Sunday show.
The Queen's husband has retired finally. For his final rest.
Yeah.
So we say it's, whatever you do when someone passes away, God rest your soul.
Yes.
And we'll talk about that on Sunday.
Yes. All right. So let me go to updates that I have this week. Just these are kind of like blurps that I thought were kind of important from the Derek Chauvin case. He is the officer charged with murder of George Floyd.
I'm going to go shut up the bunny.
Okay, but how do I play the videos? There's videos.
How long is this going to be?
I don't know.
Can I have 5 minutes?
You can. I can talk without playing the videos. Yeah, sure can.
5 minutes.
Yeah, I can talk about a lot of stuff. How's everybody doing? Are you gonna make sure that
I got everything.
Okay, so medical experts have okay, so here it's back. Medical examiner who performed George Floyd's autopsy testifies that the police caused his death. That's what Twitter is telling you. But it's not telling you the other side of the story. Fact. 3 times the lethal dose of fentanyl in his system. Fact. Fact. Just a fact. Okay? Just a fact. Floyd's girlfriend testified that Floyd suffered an OD from the pills that the same guy sold him a few weeks before, but was able to get to the hospital in time. So, a few weeks before, George Floyd almost died from the same pills, and he OD'd, and if he hadn't gotten to the hospital, he would have probably died without a police officer there. Interesting. The officer states more pills were found in the back of the police car, and that the DNA match on the saliva confirmed the ID of George Floyd. So in the police car, and maybe you can't see them, but maybe you can see my little circle. I didn't write that. That's a circle. That's a pill. It kind of looks a little dissolved. That's because somebody, and it has George Floyd's DNA on it. I don't know if you guys see it a little bit more dissolved there. He had it in his mouth. So some went in and some fell out. And this is what happens when police come. You're so afraid of going to jail, you swallow all the pills. And there's another one, almost completely dissolved and just probably ingested. Okay. So when, let's see. I don't know if this has volume to it or not. I don't know.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
I don't know if you guys can see it from there, but we're going to try, and maybe Michelle can bring it. So, I don't know if this is the right clip. There's another clip. Siobhan's attorney asks the lethal force expert from the MPD, Minneapolis PD, have you heard of camera bias? Meaning we've all saw the camera from the front. But from body cam footage, he says after the lethal expert or lethal force expert from the police department, from the Minneapolis Police Department, sees these videos side by side, would you say that the police officer's knee is on his neck or on his shoulder?
Would you agree that from the perspective of Officer King's body camera, it appears that Officer Chauvin's knee was more on Mr. Floyd's shoulder blade?
Yes.
Yes, body cam footage and Facebook videos side by side actually show that the knee was on the shoulder blade. Are we done here? I don't know. I don't know. Siobhan's lawyer just played a short excerpt of George Floyd while being held on the ground, screaming out, "Ah, I ate too many drugs."
You hear what he said?
No, I couldn't make it out.
Does it sound like he says, "I ate too many drugs"? Listen again.
I can't make that out, no.
We'll play that again.
You hear what he said?
No, I couldn't make it out.
Does it sound like he says, "I ate too many drugs"? Listen again.
He says, "I ate too many drugs." Will Chamberlain says, "You don't understand the defense at all. Drug use isn't the justification. It undermines causation. Siobhan didn't cause Floyd's death. An overdose did. And he says, "We aren't even to the defense witnesses yet. This is going so badly for the prosecution." So when the prosecution's own experts are up there, it's just looking like, and here's the thing. we all were like, oh, I'm so sorry. We police force and deadly force. I've seen some videos where police have used deadly force and it was wrong. And I don't want to ever be personally in a position where I am going to defend bad policing. I mean, look what the FBI did to General Flynn. There are bad cops. There are bad people out there. And honestly, here at Resistance Chicks, I don't have all cops are great mindset, because they aren't, because they're humans and they not just make mistakes, but they can be evil. Okay. So I want to be able to call that out all the time, but it doesn't do anybody any good if that's not the case here. Okay? If this man did not cause George Floyd's death, do you really, just because you're just angry? And there are people who just want him to be guilty. I want to know the truth. What do you want to know? Do you want to know the truth? 412 says, I ate too much drugs. It doesn't matter what caused his death. He's dead, and the left and right use his death to cause division. I personally wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that the people on the right want to cause division. I saw so many Christians, so many conservatives be like, I stand with Black Lives Matter, and I stand, because they didn't know what was going on, and like, oh my gosh, we all saw the video, and yeah, and he's just guilty, blah, blah, blah. It's just, and we went down this road, and it turned out to be the path with Patrisse Cullors and people who do seances and witchcraft, known witchcraft, and are avowed communists, trained communists. When you see those signs and you make a turn, I remember one time Kansas and I were driving back from Kansas, Matt and I driving back, Mom and Michelle were in the car in front of us, and his light came on his truck, and we were the empty E. And I guess with the diesels, you don't really want to go on E for too long because you can have problems with the pump restarting if you run out of gas. So we turned off, hoping, because there was a sign for gas. And he's got this big, long cattle trailer. And we're kind of in the middle of nowhere. And we turn off looking for gas. We need gas so badly. And we end up going down this road. And it looks like there's really nothing to be had. If you're going to have a gas station, it's going to be right there off the highway. And the gas station that was there, it was dark out. And it was abandoned, completely abandoned. And if you continue on down that road, you're probably just going to run out of gas. It's time to just say, you know what? We got off on the wrong exit. Let's get back on the right on the right track, and we'll get off on the right exit when we see lights again, right? So with George Floyd and BLM, everyone got off on the exit saying, this is the gas station. And then when they showed up and it was defunct and it wasn't there anymore, people were, well, let's just continue on down this road. And people ran out of gas. And it ended badly for a lot of folks. $2 billion worth of damage. Nike stores looted in the name of George Floyd. This is not a joke. Whole city blocks burned to the ground. Cops, how many cops? 30 cops dead? Because of this and people jumping to conclusions with anger and violence. I was talking to Patriot Gallery, my mom. You can't fix evil with evil. Jesus, Son of God, casting out demons. The Pharisees, Sadducees said, well, you cast out demons by the devil. And he says, a house divided against itself won't stand. So you can't use witchcraft and evil and violence, because that's what they're saying. Police are violent against black people. That's the narrative. Well, if that's true, and even if it was true, you can't solve violence with more violence. And we've talked about this and talked about it and talked about it. Somebody comes in and robs your home. You don't solve that and fix that by going downtown and smashing windows and lighting cars on fire. You don't fix it with curse words. You fix violence with standing up for what's right. You're going to do what? Passive resistance and things like that, but not violence. Especially, there's one thing for you, maybe you're standing up to a violent thug of a cop who's doing something wrong, raping somebody. Heard of that? You guys heard of it. You fight back. That would be right, but that's not violence. That's self-defense. Two very different things. Do you understand what I'm saying? Violence and self-defense are not the same, and we have to be able to decouple those two things. And then when you mix violence with looting, other people, especially these minority-owned stores, some of them were burned to the ground, and then they had to pay for the removal of the remains of their whole stores being burned down. And there's no fund for those stores, and it's not even politically correct to help fund those stores because they were just a good byproduct, a byproduct of something good. I have more. We're not done here. I have some more updates. You're going to get updates. You're going to get these updates. Here we have, during the murder trial of Derek Chauvin, defense attorney Eric Nelson asked the state's expert pathologist, Dr. Lindsay Thomas, several hypothetical questions. During the line of questions, Dr. Thomas made a major concession. Nelson asked if a person was found deceased at their home at the same level of drugs found in their system as George Floyd, taking out all other factors, would the death be considered an overdose? The state's own expert said yes.
And so that means that the methamphetamine was taken more acutely or recently in time.
Probably. I mean, there's lots of variables.
So again, just kind of taking into consideration removing certain variables, right? You find a person at home, no struggle with the police, right? And the person doesn't have a heart problem, but you find fentanyl and methamphetamine in this person's system at the levels that they are at, would you certify this as an overdose?
Again, in the absence of any of these other realities, yes, I could consider that to be an overdose.
And the level of fentanyl in a person, again, in this hypothetical scenario, there are deaths certified as drug overdoses significantly lower than 11 nanograms per milliliter.
Lower, higher, it's got a huge range, yes.
As low, I believe, as 3% or 3 nanograms per milliliter.
Yes.
Right. So the ingestion of...
So we're putting these pieces together. George Floyd, just a few weeks before, had overdosed and almost died from the same drugs from the same drug dealer.
Right.
The cops get called on him because he's kind of acting erratically, and he passes a counterfeit 20. And he has the drugs on him. Ingest them really quick because he's done this before.
Right.
And then you see some of them on the floor with his saliva on them. And then the video, I don't know if you heard it if you were listening, where George Floyd says, I ate too many drugs.
Mm-hmm.
This trial probably shouldn't continue on much longer. I mean, here's the thing. This is the prosecution at this point. We're not even at the defense witnesses. The defense has witnesses who will go over the same videos. The prosecution has witnesses who they want to say, and as Twitter wants to say, these witnesses said the police caused the death, right? But then when the defense comes in and re-questions them, they say, well,
right,
we're jumping the gun,
right,
on the crossing. And so here's the thing: can you say reasonable doubt when
and
you
that's
convict somebody of murder?
Yeah,
you have to convict them beyond reasonable
And this goes
doubt.
back to, I don't know if
You don't have to be certain, but if you reasonably doubt it, you can't convict them.
they overcharged him.
Right.
If they really wanted a conviction, they overcharged him.
That's true. That's absolutely true.
Because they won't get it. I don't believe that they will get it.
We haven't even gotten on the defense. Are you kidding me? And Derek Chauvin, trial judge, actually allows the evidence that George Floyd ingested drugs, suffered heart trouble in May of 2019 at a police stop. So he is already known to do these things. Judge Peter Cahill said jurors could see a portion of a police body camera video recorded in 2019 because it was relevant to the defense theory on the cause of death. The portion of the video the judge will allow starts with a police officer approaching Floyd's car and ends with Floyd in handcuffs. Cahill will also allow a photo of pills in the crack between, we saw that, and a back cushion of the passenger seat of George. Oh, that was different. These are different photos. Pills in the crack between the seat cushion and the back cushion of the passenger seat of Floyd's car. Finally, judge will allow Floyd's blood pressure readings and other statements Floyd made in search of a medical diagnosis after the 2019 stop. Cahill ruled that Floyd's behavior after police approached him May 6, 2019 was not admissible because it was not relevant. Cahill said statements by the police pertaining to Floyd's suspected drug use were also not relevant.
Here's the deal. When it comes to a case where someone has been murdered, if they have ever had a run-in with the law, it's relevant to the case. Okay? If you want to say that maybe their brothers, cousins, sisters, whatever had a run-in with the law is not relevant, fine. But if they have a consistent history of drugs, of a run-in with the police, it's all relevant.
Right. So hearsay is not admissible into court. However, a paramedic called to treat Floyd can testify about what Floyd said regarding whether he ingested drugs on that date in 2019. Those statements by Floyd to the paramedic fell squarely within an exception to the rule against hearsay. The exception allows evidence to come into a trial if it is uttered in an attempt to secure a medical diagnosis. The rules of evidence presume that people will not lie to their doctors when seeking a medical treatment, and therefore, that statements made in order to secure medical treatment are inherently reliable. The judge also will allow testimony from a paramedic that Floyd suffered a hypertensive emergency based on blood pressure readings and needed to go to the hospital right away. The judge will not allow testimony that Floyd was violent. But he was violent. The whole point here is we have medical evidence that of what happens when Mr. Floyd is faced with virtually the same situation he faced when Chauvin and others confronted him 1 year later. Confrontation by the police at gunpoint followed a rapid ingestion of some drugs. We don't know exactly how many, but there is an admission he had done this at the time of the stop. So that concludes your trial update. And why would we cover this so importantly? Because we all know that if he gets off, the world will burn. And it's important to know that if he gets off, why? And to have the evidence out there. Because I have no skin in this game. I don't think police are all fun and games all the time. Okay, now let me move on to a different, I'm going to kind of switch gears here. Switch some gears here.
Switching gears.
Yeah, I follow
As Sean
a guy.
Connery would say it that way.
I follow a guy, and you guys should follow him too if you go on Twitter. His name is Corey DeAngelis, and it's spelled CoreyDeangelis. And he is constantly putting out statements. Fund kids, not schools. Fund kids, not schools. And Greg Gutfeld actually quoted Corey on, I believe, The Five. And I'm going to kind of go over it with what he's talking about and with the COVID-19 pandemic. So as we continue to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic, many public schools have been closed for in-person instruction for nearly a year. And he's always been for school choice. And 2020 has showed just why school choice is needed more now than ever. And listen, our property taxes just went up, and they're taking an
by a
extra
lot.
like $1,200 from me a month or a year. And that's not
Which it's not equaling that on my escrow, by the way.
It's not.
No, yeah, it is. That's what it is.
And I don't exactly have an extra $1,200 to fund people's education.
We don't actually have escrow, by the way. I get these little slips because while the rest of you have a mortgage, praise God we don't. Your property taxes go in there, and sometimes you don't really feel it. But I gotta pay mine like outright. I gotta send them little slips.
And especially
annoying.
because like the people that I'm funding make more than me. It bothers me a lot that I pay rent here. And if I don't, they can take my house from me.
Big rent. It's big rent.
Big rent. And I'm not getting anything out of it.
I should not have to rent my property.
You know what?
We would pay for the fire and the EMS and the police and some of the library, not the Taj Mahal that they built.
But why can't the library be volunteer? But anyways. Okay, so meanwhile, children have been falling behind academically, mentally, physically, blah, 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 blah. You get this. The past year has exposed one of the main problems with K-12 education in the United States. It should be K-8, but whatever. And then high school should be college. You just start your life.
That's the way it was.
Yeah. There is a long existing massive power imbalance between the public school monopoly and individual families. Residentially assigned public schools receive large amounts of children's education dollars, regardless of how well they meet the needs of individual families. And as we've witnessed this past year, regardless of whether they even open their doors. It's actually one thing to kind of expose this. It's one thing for a child's residentially assigned public school to continue receiving their education dollars year after year despite failing to meet their needs, but it's another conversation altogether that same school to continue to receive a child's education dollars when their doors are closed.
Exactly.
Parents across the country are waking up to the fact that they're getting the short end of the stick when it comes to K-12 education. If a grocery store doesn't reopen, families can take their money elsewhere. Families are realizing that if their child's school doesn't reopen, they should similarly be able to take their education dollars elsewhere. In fact, families should be able to take their children's education dollars elsewhere regardless of their school's reopening decision. After all, education funding is supposed to be for educating children, not for protecting a particular institution. There's been a recent surge in support for funding students instead of systems. And here's the thing. As we scale down, private schools, because people pay out of pocket, cost substantially less. Okay?
Per student.
$10,000 a year around here for your public school. If you want to send your child to a private school, you might be in the $2,000 to $5,000 range.
It depends on the school.
Yeah, you can be. Yes, you can. I know.
CHCA is $18,000 a year.
Whoa, that's expensive. That's a big fancy one. But there are other private, smaller schools, Christian schools. Catholic schools give you all kinds of grants and things like that. That's a college education right there. That's for where the rich Christians go. Nobody has $18,000 a year to send their kid to school. Okay. There's been a recent surge in support for funding students instead of systems. The latest nationwide survey from Real Clear Opinion Research found that support for funding students directly increased by 10 percentage points in just a few months, from 67% in April to 77% in August of 2020 among parents with children in public schools. Another national survey conducted by EdChoice found that support for 4 types of school choice: education savings accounts, tax credit scholarships, vouchers, and charter schools all surged in 2020 between spring and fall. The same survey found that 86% of parents with school-aged children now support funding students directly through education savings accounts. Education savings account initiatives would allow families to use a portion of their child's K-12 education dollars to cover the cost of approved education, including private schooling, homeschooling, micro-schooling, pandemic pods, tutoring, special needs services. This realization that we should be funding students instead of closed buildings is also leading to real action in a majority of state legislators across the country. Get this. Now we're seeing some action in the state legislators this year that are just blowing my mind. Legislators in 27 states have introduced bills to enact or expand programs that would fund K-12 students as opposed to institutions. 7 of these states, Iowa, Arizona, Missouri, Indiana, Kansas, South Dakota, and West Virginia, have already passed school choice legislation out of a chamber, and 5 others, Florida, Georgia, Montana, Idaho, and Oklahoma, have passed bills out of at least one committee. The proposals differ in sizes and scope, but they would all be a step in the right direction towards expanding educational freedom, and some of them would be groundbreaking. For example, over 90% of the school-aged population would be eligible for the proposal that passed out of the West Virginia House of Representatives. And under a bill in New Hampshire, nearly all school-aged children would be eligible for their proposal to fund students instead of systems. Additionally, one of the 2 school choice proposals that passed out of the Arizona State Senate would roughly triple the number of families eligible, about 22% of school-aged population, from 22% of the school-aged population to an estimated 65 to 70% of the school-aged population. Legislators in some states, including Illinois, Rhode Island, Pennsylvania, Maryland, filed bills that would allow families to take their children's K-12 education dollars elsewhere if their schools didn't reopen in person. These bills suggest that much of this momentum is driven by prolonged school closures. See, guys, there's a lot of good coming out of this stuff because we've been stuck in this cycle.
Something had to break the cycle. And it reminds me of taking care of my bees. There's something called the varroa mite. That's what, if you guys have been hearing about the bees dying off and stuff like that, that's a big portion of it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they reproduce in what we call the brood or the larva or the baby bees. In the little cells, that's where the varroa mite live and reproduce. Well, they don't live there, but they reproduce there. Okay. So if you want to break the cycle of the varroa mite, okay, if you split a hive like I've just recently done, and the queen, there's no queen in one of the hives, so there's no fresh laying eggs, right? I'm going to have an opportunity to break the varroa mite cycle in that hive. But what it means is no reproduction. I don't have any reproduction, but we have to break the cycle. So what they did during 2020 and into now that has been so awful, God Almighty has been using it to break the cycle of the destructive varroa mites on our society.
Yeah, so my favorite guy, John Taylor Gatto. This is a great book. Everybody should read it. Weapons of Mass Instruction. I'm going through it line by line, and I've listened to him.
Weapons of Mass Instruction.
Right, instruction. Sorry. John Taylor Gatto was a public school teacher for like I don't know how many 16 years. He got Teacher of the Year, and his big thing was the schooling is the problem. It's not what they're teaching, which that is part of the problem. It's the schooling method is designed to create the very drones that you see everywhere who will just digest and eat whatever's given to them because they're trained that way. And it's a formula. And what I love about John Taylor Gatto is he is all about the individual and how you are a genius. That genius is as common as dirt. It actually has to be schooled out of you.
That's good.
Okay? America, he says, signs that the culture was a body oozing life were everywhere, and everywhere denied by the managers of schooling and everything else. We could no longer harvest our own food, but depended upon illegal immigration to do that. The economic base of our medical care industry was shaken at its foundations by massive defections of clientele for surgery, dental, blah, 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 blah. He's talking about the beginning of the 21st century and how things just kind of got crazy out of control. But before that, Americans were individualists and entrepreneurs and not wanting to be considered workers. Schooling creates workers. And we give this quote all the time from J.D. Rockefeller. I want a nation of workers, not a nation of thinkers. You're told that schooling, and many teachers believe they're teaching thinkers, but the method of the schooling, forcing you to go to school, forcing you by threat of police to do exactly what they're telling you to do.
Even to the point, and John Taylor Gatto breaks this down in all of his lectures. You can listen to them online, and in all of his books, the ringing of the bell, the standing in the lines, just all the way that schooling is constructed, kids sitting behind desks for hours on an end, not actually learning. Here's the deal. If you were to be taught something by someone, okay, let's say I sew. Let's say I were to teach somebody how to sew. We're actually going to do that thing. I'm not going to give you a book and teach you how to sew and make you learn it by words. Okay? I'm going to let you be creative, and I'm going to show you different things and hands-on. They do not do that in schooling.
What they're doing is schooling creates customers and consumers, not producers. Because if you're a producer, you're going to be taking away the profit from somebody else as a producer. They need you to be a consumer. The educated spirit can see through the illusions. And we're talking about education. We're talking about schooling that's bad. But the educated spirit can see through the illusions of winning as only dark phantoms, thoroughly conditioned in school by constant petty competitions and superiority and inferiority symbolisms. Education, not schooling, teaches what really matters. And that adding value to others is the only way to add value to yourself. If you aren't useful, you must be useless, and nobody wants that.
That goes back to the one-room schoolhouses where the older children would help to teach the younger children. Without that, you are not...
He says, we used to make steel.
Contributing.
Now we make bubbles, with the strangest economic bubble of them all being the swollen, cancerous school bubble. Early childhood to graduate college, a utopian growth which costs much more than any dividends yield. It breaks families, intellects, and characters. It visits incompetence on tens of millions. It's a black hole of negative energy draining vitality from national life. Just losing the young from the everyday world has pernicious effects, cumulative ones. Benjamin Franklin actually would go around with his dad. His dad was like a town guy, okay? He was a leader, and he would go to his dad. He'd go to the brickmaker and to the carpenter, and he learned all these different things, and he learned what he wanted to be. He ran a printing press. He started running his own business at 12 or 13. He started with a small printing press. He started to write stories, and he learned as a child. And what I'm saying is that children are locked away.
No, that's so good. That sentence is so good.
In these schools, when they're not learning and interacting, that is not normal.
It's not normal.
In the past,
4,000,
6,000 years of humanity.
Not only is it bad for the children, it's bad for us in societies. I don't think that societies have ever functioned until the late 19th century with the Industrial Revolution, when we needed all these workers. Have we had societies where children are always separate from adults? If you do not have a job where you are working with children, let's just say you've got an everyday regular job and you don't have children, okay? How often do you actually see or interact with children? Because I'm going to be honest with you. Outside of my family, I hardly ever interact or see children.
I know.
It's weird. It is so weird. I didn't grow up that way because I grew up going to church and babysitting.
So one of the things that people do
right.
Most people love John Taylor Gatto, but there are some intellectuals that hate when he points out the successes, whether these people turn out to be great people or not, but the business success of people who actually were dropouts. They hate that because it hurts their brain.
Right.
Andrew Carnegie actually dropped out of elementary school at the age of 7 with an accent so thick everybody made fun of him. Andrew Carnegie. Okay. John Mackey, founder of the Whole Foods Market chain, and Kip Tindall, founder of the Container Store chain, that was a big thing at one time, roomed together in Austin where they played poker a lot while trying not very hard to get through the University of Texas. Both eventually dropped out. Mackey to open a health food store, and Tindall to honor his obsession to help people to organize their messy lives, and both became millionaires by dropouts. Remember, Benjamin Franklin in Philadelphia, where the crackling energy of limitless possibility was everywhere, in a society where ages were mixed together, where like anyone could take a turn when they felt up to it, where possibilities popped up like firecrackers. Boston was another example of this. Research the unbelievable trade of ice to India as just one specimen of what is possible when imagination and youth go unregulated. Pittsburgh is another good place to look, and that was Andrew Carnegie. Warren Buffett started in business at the age of 6, selling Coca-Colas door to door in an unair-conditioned Omaha, Nebraska, one hot summer during the Depression. Let's see. It says the Lancaster Amish still believe no job is worth giving up their independence. And then consider what society would look like if 65 million trapped school children learning to be consumers were suddenly set to actively imagining themselves in independent livelihoods, adding value to the rest of the community, imagining themselves as producers instead of bored consumers. And I would say that about our Amish friends. These kids are smart, and their parents help them to be producers. And in a loving family, it works out well. One son wants to start laying chickens. Another son wants to do sheep. And they do it because this is what I think I want to do. Right. And it's enjoyable to them. So anyways, this book is just, he calls this open source learning. We need more open source learning. And now we can, especially with the internet, there's really no reason that you have to go to school. There's no reason to put your booty in a chair.
And I'll tell you, I have learned far more, and I think most adults can say this, outside of schooling.
Me too.
Than all I needed to know was how to read and mathematics, maybe a little bit of science. History's fun. Okay. But outside of that, I can do anything. We have learned from other people teaching us hands-on how to, I don't know, solder pipes, plumb an entire bathroom, tile an entire bathroom with marble. We know how to run electrical, even three-way switches. You know, we know how to frame things. I mean, we know how to butcher pigs. We know how to castrate pigs. That's medical. Okay, there's a countless list. I know how to do drywall. I mean, we know how to do stuff. Yeah. We just helped Kansas put in a French drain. I can dig.
Yeah.
You know, like, these are the things that will create rounded children and adults that know how to use ingenuity and creativity and be entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about here on Facebook Live. Rebecca says, I never passed the 9th grade, but I feel well educated. People come to me for information about different things.
Love it.
Back to George Floyd on Facebook. Sarah says, and George Floyd's family received $27 million in their settlement with the state.
I know.
On YouTube. Stuart the Brit says, I did the Carnegie course, did not work. 412 says, school still has its uses. Most people should be tradesmen. Marlene Allen says, farm. Let's see. 412 says, Carnegie is like a folk hero around here. Patriot Gallery says, my mother always said it is very healthy for children to be outside.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let me go to Twitch here. All right, those comments were from earlier. We're not on Periscope anymore, which is sad. On DLive, let's see. Michelle LK says, look up Dunn and Bradstreet filings on public schools, police, township, etc. Very good. She said she's a special needs mom.
Aww. So this is a very interesting story. A pilot flies the family kicked off of Southwest to Austin. A random pilot here. Because their 2-year-old could not and would not keep the mask on.
Hi.
On April 1st,
Hey, this is not an April Fool's joke.
Eric Harvey posted this 18-minute long video to Facebook.
I don't know if you saw the title, but kicked off a plane. So that's what's happened. I should be sitting in a plane seat right now on my way to Austin, Texas.
Eric Harvey, his wife Michelle, and their 2.5-year-old son Jackson, 3.5, were all set to fly on Southwest from Denver to Austin. Aware of the federal mask mandate for all flight customers over the age of 2, the Harvey family knew they had to get their son used to wearing a mask.
I practiced with him at least 2 or 3 times at the house, and every time he threw it off. but I figured that they would work with us on the plane because he's 2.
Michelle says when the family boarded, Jackson was wearing his mask, but it's when they were seated that he took it off.
And the lady comes up to me and says, and at that point Jackson had taken off his mask. She said, "I'm sorry, ma'am, you're going to have to get off the plane. Your son needs to wear his mask."
Southwest released this statement to Fox 7 saying, quote, "We regret the inconvenience this family experienced. However, federal law requires all customers 2 and over to wear a mask."
It's child
kind of
abuse.
shaking and thinking, wow, I can't believe this is happening to me.
Eric's video received more than 1,000 views. One of those viewers, an old family friend named James Peck.
I have a family of my own. I remember traveling with my daughter when she was little, and it's not impossible to get your kids to be awesome on a flight, but to get them to be able to keep a mask on the entire time has its challenges.
Peck has been a pilot for about 7 years. After watching the video, he decided that he was going to help this family.
Knew that I could use that as a great excuse to go take a flight and help them out and get them here.
Peck decided to fly his twin-engine airplane to Denver, pick up the family of 3, and fly them to Austin himself at no charge.
I just was floored. I just said, you know what, babe? I'm nervous, but I feel like turning him down would be rude. Like, this is an opportunity.
Peck has even offered to take them back to Denver at the end of their trip.
The miracles will come to you. Things will show up. That Good Samaritan will show up.
Amanda Ruiz, Fox 7 Austin News.
This is where it's come to. For a disease that has an over 98%, or is it 99 at this point? 99% recovery rate. But a child of the age of 2 must muzzle their face so that they have reduced oxygen, or they cannot fly on an airplane.
Yeah, that's true. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to sign off. We're going to finish our show. I love to go with all power of God with the YouTubers. But I feel like we just kind of want to talk about our Health and Freedom Conference a little bit more freer. So let's sign off with YouTube now.
Okay. All right. So here's what y'all need to do. You need to go to resistancechicks.com, click on today's show. All right. The links to DLive, Twitch, and Facebook are there. So you can come. You don't have to end the show here. You don't have to leave us. You can come there. But we love you guys.
In a couple days, Mike Lindell is supposedly coming out with a new...
But we're still on YouTube.
With a new...
Right.
With a new streaming ability, with a new something.
Right.
And it's going to be called Frank. And I've been really excited about this because
said the 12th.
I'd love for that to be the embedded video on our Resistance Chicks page. Mm-hmm. And then just so that it would never go away. Right. But we are going to get a channel on Clout Hub.
It's not there yet, but they are letting us choose our number. So we have chosen channel number 1620.
For why?
Because y'all know how we feel about the Pilgrims and when they landed. 1620, 400 years ago.
Very excited about this. So you can start following us. If you guys please go and create a Clout Hub account. I know it's another app on your phone, but it's worth it. We're on Telegram. We are on MeWe. We are on the... Mom was just posting on the Diamond Silks Chit Chat. They've got one. We are on Gab. Parlor. And Michelle gets a lot of that stuff out. Sometimes it doesn't go out to everything, and that's okay. Mom.
Telegram
is fun.
Here's the deal. When it comes to Clout Hub, because that's the newest thing that we're doing right now, there are probably less than 225 channels on there right now. You have to be invited to do it.
Yeah.
Okay? So it's a really big deal.
If I say remind me later, I'm busy.
That we are going to have a channel on Clout Hub. The CEO, Jeff, contacted us personally and said, we are looking forward to working with you and your sister. We want to have your channel. Okay? So it's a big deal.
Please go sign up for
Please go and sign. I know there's a lot to sign up for. I get it. One of these is going to become the new
So when you all signed up for DLive and started following us and we were able to do our stream there and keep it there for a few days, that was awesome. So I know it's a lot to follow on all the different sites, but I'm hoping I really am feeling that Frank is going to be the place, but I don't know. We'll see.
You know why? Because Mike Lindell is a salesman and he says it's going to be good. He says it's going to be great. He says it's going to be the best.
I know.
He is convinced. So real salesmen convince people of what they are convinced of.
But I just feel it.
Okay. All right. So YouTube, go on now, resistancechicks.com, and we'll